Well, hello and welcome to our webinar Wednesday. So happy that you could join us today and learn more about financing options for veteran-owned businesses. We're really excited to have Mike McGrane here with us today from Veteran Launch. And let's get on with our show. Getting on to our show, presenting today's webinar is Michael McGrane. He is the Senior Vice President for Veteran Launch, and he is part of the Northern California market. He's a Northern California market manager. So Mike has been with Veteran Launch for over 3 years. And at Veteran Launch, they provide attractive loans with low fees and competitive interest rates. And this is interesting. It's for startups and existing businesses. We don't see a lot of options available for people starting out. So if you are in that phase, this is a great program if you are a veteran or spouse of a veteran or working with a veteran. So Mike has over 21 years of experience working in the banking lending industry as a business development officer. He is also an Air Force veteran and is really focused on creating sustainability in the veteran community. So without further ado, I am going to introduce Mike and set up a little poll right here while he's sharing his screen. So looking at this poll, have you been honorably discharged from the military? We're just interested to see where your status is, and are you the spouse or a veteran or of an active duty personnel? Because another great thing is this program is available to spouses as well. Looking good. So our results are coming in. We have, I think we're going to close out the poll right now. So looking at have you been honorably discharged from the military, we have 69% say yes and 31% say no. So be interested to learn more. Are you active? Are you service disabled? We'll find out more as we go along. Are you the spouse of a veteran or active duty personnel? 15% said yes and 85% said no. So we're looking at a lot of veterans attending today, which is exciting. If you have any questions, please submit them through the Q&A box. It should be near the bottom of your screen. We'll keep an eye on that as we go through and try and answer them as best as we can. But all right, Mike, thank you so much for being here today, and I'll let you take it away.
Okay, thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
You sound great.
Okay, wonderful. Thanks for this great opportunity to share the good news, I call it. No, I'm not a pastor, but I definitely have good news for all veterans out there that are interested in getting either financing to start a business or to grow their existing business or maybe to buy a business. So let's get right to the good stuff. Veteran Launch is a nonprofit lender. We are part of a program called Main Street Launch that started in Oakland 40 years ago. And we noticed a niche where there was a great opportunity really for us to focus on veterans. So they asked me as a veteran, and you see there's 4 people on the team, 3 out of 4 of us are veterans. And we really enjoy our work in being able to help other veterans to, get started or to grow their business. We started about 4.5 years ago, and you can see in the top right corner there, we already have 87 businesses on the books. We've done over 100 loans, so some borrowers came back for more. 58% are startups. We do a lot of women-owned loans. And about a quarter are service-connected disabled veterans, meaning the VA has certified them as a disabled vet, which allows them additional priority when they're trying to get either state, government, even some of the big corporations like SMUD, PG&E. They are always looking for service-connected disabled veteran-owned businesses to help with their stats on serving the community through their buying programs. Under the next section there, under diversity, you can see that it's not on purpose, but we do a lot of loans for minorities, and that's actually one of the requirements of us being a nonprofit lender. It's called a CDFI. We're partially financed by the Treasury Department, and they want us to do 60% of all of our loans to diverse groups, including veterans, or underprivileged or underserved areas or counties. And so this program works really well for us. We opened up the Southern California office in May of 2018, and that's Darius right here. And he's got a larger pipeline than me now, so that's just fine with me. We're both stay busy, and he's got a lot more than 8 loans for now. This thing needs to be updated. So let's go to the next one. Oh, I also want to touch on Robert Blundell. He started a couple of months ago, and we got a special grant through the state of California. His expertise is advising businesses before they get started, but also once they're already started, helping our portfolio to have less defaults, frankly. If they at the first sign of any trouble, for them to jump in and give them a hand and say, whether it's problem with the QuickBooks or the sales or marketing, he's really done it all. He was a professor at a university, and I believe he's just wrapping up his MBA also. So he's very well rounded. He's a Marine veteran, former sniper. He's always a Marine, but he's a former sniper. He doesn't do that anymore. All right, so let's go on to the next page. Okay, so access to capital. We are a preferred lender with the SBA, and that's really important because that means that once I approve your loan and send it to our CEO for final signature, then the loan immediately goes to the loan closer. Very important for us to not have to send the file to the local SBA or national somewhere. The only time SBA is going to see this file is maybe during an audit, and they'll come to our office to see them. So that just helps to speed things up. Loans up to $250,000. The Community Advantage Loan Program is the kind of the flagship for what we do, and that goes from $25,000 to $250,000. We do look for, in order for me to call this a veteran-owned business, we look for at least 20% ownership by the veteran or someone that's still in the military. Maybe their spouse is actually running the business, but we want the veteran to be involved in the business and in order for us to, call it a veteran loan. It must be for profit, and most types are available. About the only ones that are not available are those that are not available through the SBA. And that would be loans that are speculative. Like, for instance, if someone wanted to flip homes, you can't buy a home and hope that you can sell it for more. That's speculation. You can't borrow money and go invest it in the stock market. That's speculation. But you can get a loan and go buy a business that, is, a print shop or, manufacturing, or, we do a lot of service. And pool service, it seems to be really popular with veterans because they can work alone, work at their own pace. And, as long as you have good clients that pay you like clockwork, it's actually pretty lucrative. Let's see, let's keep it moving here. We only operate in California. That's very important to keep in mind. The business must be in California. For technical assistance, we have a lot of expertise ourselves because, I've been, lending and in credit for over 25 years. I talked about Robert, Darius, our guy in Southern California. He's been with Main Street Launch for over 6 years, and he was a lender before that too. So, we've got you covered on that side. And then networking, we are always trying to hook up our veteran borrowers with other veterans in the area for events. We've got a big summit that we have in Sacramento, and there's also a big summit in San Diego with basically the same people, bringing in people with all kinds of expertise to help you either start your business. First of all, figure out if you're an entrepreneur, and then help you get started with all kinds of classes and development programs. Okay, so this is an interesting one. Yeah, we could have put this in a question, Elizabeth, but I'm just going to go ahead and answer it. You can see that many businesses fail in the first year, and these are stats from the SBA, and I think that it's a little bit misleading because chances are these businesses didn't go through a lender. They probably said, hey, I think I'll start an insurance company, and they figure out, oh wow, this is really hard, and they stop. They never got a loan, they never went through the due diligence. They many times may not have even prepared a balance sheet and income statement and business plan. So if you're getting a loan from a lender, you're going to want to have that business plan so that you really know what you're getting yourself into, and you can have someone help you vet through that and look at all the details. The main reason why they fail is either lack of funding. They just didn't realize how much money it was going to take to really get the business to be self-sustaining. You got to make enough money so that you're not constantly dipping into your own money, personal funds, or you just run out of the personal funds. And that's from profits. And well, what are profits? Well, that's what's left over. But a lot of times you can bet that out to, what is it? There's a couple of, everyone's heard of the Prophet on CNBC. He's got three things, the three P's that he looks for: the people, the process, or the product. One of those is usually not working very well, which is keeping the business from performing at its optimum. And when he fixes those, or maybe sometimes all three, if he says, hey, there's something here, he can make a pretty profitable business. Another one that is critical in any business now, Ernesto Sorelli is a world-renowned person. He and his wife go to, Zimbabwe, and they get hired by the local either the country or the local regions to help them develop businesses. And what he has found in all of his travels through the years is that you need product, you need someone to handle the product, actually making the items. You need someone to manage it, and you need someone to manage the money, or you keep track of the numbers. He swears that there's no one person that can do all three of these well. Usually what happens is you have an entrepreneur that is maybe good at one of those, but they're kind of mediocre in the other two areas. So it's really important for you as an entrepreneur to identify what you are best at, and then hire people or bring in the other people as partners to cover those other areas that you're not an expert at. So, you may be a great inventor, but you don't know a whole lot about social media or other types of marketing and branding. That's a perfect example where you really want to bring somebody in that can really help you, because you may have a great product, but if you're not presenting it properly, you may think, oh, my product's terrible and no one wants it, no one likes it. Well, maybe it's just in the way it was presented. Okay, moving along. On the business plan, yes, of course, lenders want a business plan. I was down in Southern California at a sitting in on a class, and they had three lenders up there, and they said, how big does a business plan need to be? And it's really the wrong question. It's the content in the business plan that really matters. Two of the lenders said, oh yeah, if it's more than 5 pages, you're just wasting my time. I don't agree with that because, especially as a startup, you cannot tell me in 5 pages everything there is to know about who's running the company, their experience, how you're going to market, why is your product great, who's your competitors, what's the financial breakdown, and what are your assumptions to the financials. So we're going to get into some of this, but it's really important. On the marketing plan, I'm going to touch on this thing right here, branding example. I was at a breakfast one time, and it had 3 different speakers on branding. And one of them just like, it was an epiphany. He said, I was an SBA lender, right? So I still am. He asked the whole group, if someone went to one of your referral sources and said, who's a good SBA lender in the Sacramento market? And there was a pause. And he said, now, if your referral source does not say Mike McGrane from Veteran Launch, then they're not your referral source. It's kind of mean spirited, but you know what? They're for some reason, they're not on the same page as you. They either don't know you that well. They don't have the same goal for you for me, as them in helping their clients get financing, or there's some type of disconnect where maybe I need to market more to that person to help them understand, or maybe I need to just cut them loose because they're on my list of people to call and send emails and stuff out. But if they've never sent me anything, maybe they're good to go. The other thing that is really important to think about is I was at a class just the other day at the Women's Business Center in Sacramento, and there was a person doing a presentation on marketing, and they said they wanted everybody to go around the room and say what they did. Okay, so I'm Joe and I sell I'm a State Farm rep. Okay. I immediately in my head was thinking, okay, I already have an insurance agent. I'm really not interested in Joe, what he's got going on. Everybody went around and did this. And then she said, now we need to change this up. I want you to refocus this and say, you're not going to say a word. You're just going to remind the rest of the group. There was like 20 people in the room. Remind us what you did. Okay, I'm the insurance guy. All right. Now we're going to go around and they want people to volunteer. What's important to you in an insurance salesperson? Okay. And then he started writing these things down. Reliability, does what he says he's going to do, has great products, has good pricing. All this stuff is a responsive company. All this stuff is really important to us as the consumer. But Bob over here saying, I sell, insurance. He's not getting the message across. So when you make a presentation about what you do, have that elevator speech targeted so that you're hitting those things that you've already identified from your focus groups as to what are the key points on what makes your business important and why you're the best person to supply that need. Let's move on to the sales plan. Sales plan is really important, especially in the first 90 days of the startup, because you've got to be able to hit the road running to really understand. Okay, I got my loan, I got my money, it's sitting there in the bank account, and what I don't want to see as a lender is that that money going down every month and the sales are not going up. If that's the case, then that the sales plan is it's not being executed, or there isn't one, and or maybe you need to tweak some things. But usually, if you write it down and you plan it out and you share that sales plan, you can tweak it before you really get the money and start burning through. Okay, the next thing, financial breakdown. Lifeplan is a product that's available from a company called Lifeplan. They're out of Palo Alto, and we're seeing this more and more because it's a great plan for a startup business or a fairly new business, to really, it helps you write the business plan with really good questions, and then you're basically just filling in the blank spaces. Or it's also tied in with QuickBooks and some other software, so that you can start putting in all your assumptions and actual sales and expenses, and it creates your business, your income statement, your balance sheet, and your cash flow. You've got to know what your numbers are, and this program is really good implementing all that together. I'm looking for some great SBDC advisors to really be experts at Lifeplan, so they can sit down with the clients and work through the Lifeplan with the borrowers. You know, you come in once a week or whatever. Okay, here's your homework. Go find out this stuff. You know, go do your marketing. Go do your, you know, your assumptions. Call some numbers. Look, find out your competitors. See what's going on, and really see where we're at. Okay, so Elizabeth, I just lost my camera view. Can you guys still see me?
I just turned off your video. There was a little feedback, and so I was concerned that the bandwidth might be stressing with the video on. But I can turn you back on if you'd like. Or ask.
No, it doesn't. I'm fine with it. I just wanted to make sure that there was still people out there.
Oh, yes.
Okay, great. Here we go then. All right. Technology. In the business plan, you really want to cover not only what technology is unique to your business, but how you're going to do stuff. You know, you talk about your POS, talk about the website details and the types of e-commerce and the engine that you plan to use. And if you're using, you know, some type of a Salesforce or other CRM, you know, what is it that you're planning on using to grow your business and keep track of everything. Equipment and tools, kind of the same thing, any specialty stuff. Your team, focus on what I talked about earlier. If you're the person that, you know, has invented this great product, then what's the rest of the team? Who's going to manage the operations? Who's going to manage the money part? Now, the money part, you probably don't need a partner, with someone that's actually taking a salary or the profits. But you got to make sure you have somebody that has your back and is not only understands how to do numbers, but can explain it to you and is keeping track of everything and giving you constant feedback, so you really understand where you're at. Advisors, very, very important before you even go to a lender. You know, find out, you know, is setting up a business in Modesto, is that really a good idea for what I'm trying to do, right? Okay, so you're selling surfboards in Modesto, yeah, that might be a problem. So let's, just talk to as many experts and, don't worry about family. And yes, talk to family and friends, but a lot of times family and friends are the ones that are going to say, oh, you're crazy, that'll never work. But, try to talk to more people, talk about experts in the field, and then go from there. Okay, financial analysis. Sources and uses of funds is really important, because we need to see, that you've thought through how big of a project is this. Are we talking $50,000 project? Are we talking $500,000 project? And if you're starting up a printing company and you have very little amount listed on there for equipment or inventory, then I really have to wonder if you've done all your homework on knowing what all these startup costs are going to be. Because like I said before, we don't want to fund it and then you realize, oh, I forgot this and that, and it's a significant increase in the cost, and it eats up all your working capital right away. You need that working capital to grow that business. Projected profit and loss, at least monthly revenue and expenses for the first year. The second year is always good. and at least the second and third year annually, so we can see what your growth projections are going to be. Some people go out to 5 years, and I have found that, 4th and 5th year, it's really hard to tell exactly where you're going to be, because a lot can happen in the first 3 years, and you can always revise. That's the great thing about projections. But I don't see the need to go past 3 years. Pro forma balance sheet is also important, because there's certain ratios that we can compare to other companies, other startup companies in your industry. And if you see, and you can do that, look at the ratios online. Those are available, and SBDC consultants also have that information available. Cash flow statement, very important to show the sources and the uses of the cash. So if it's not coming in from sales, where is it coming from, right? So is it coming from your personal funds? Is it coming from a loan? Is it coming from the landlord putting in some tenant improvements as part of the total project? And then there's the financial ratios. Very important to be compared to the industry, because banks have to address that in our write-up. And it also helps you to understand if you're saying, oh, my projections, I'm showing that I'm going to have 25% net income, after I pay all my bills and pay my loan payment. But if the industry says you're only typically businesses in this area are only at 5%, then that could be a problem. Maybe there's some other expenses you're not looking at. Milestones, very important. You want some short-term and some long-term milestones. These are items that are necessary in the business, and that if you don't accomplish them, then you need to make some adjustments. So it's important to have something to shoot for, and it also looks good for lenders. So we know that you're looking in the future. Maybe that's in the long term. Maybe that's setting up the second location in by year 3 or something like that. As it's a target date, it's out there, but it's definitely attainable. Key metrics, kind of the same deal there. How are you going to measure your success? You have to really think about that and put it down on paper. And then again, running this past your mentors will help you to understand if that's, hitting the mark. Typical needs for an SBA loan submission. Of course, every lender has their form. Our form is only 2 pages for that initial application part. The SBA form is a 1919. That's personal eligibility stuff. That asks if you've got any outstanding suits, liens, judgments, any bankruptcy in the last 3 years, any loss to the government. That's very important for us to understand if that's something that's going to keep us from even being able to offer an SBA guaranteed loan to you. 3 years personal federal tax returns. We do verify them with the IRS. If you're already in business, we need 3 years on the business, interim financials, AR, accounts receivable and payables. We want to see how you're paying your bills, and of course, if there's any other debt out there. Business plan and projections, I think we already covered that. Except for on the projections, make sure that you have sufficient assumptions to those projections, because it's not enough for you to tell me that your sales are going to be $5,000 in the first month. Why is it 5,000? Why isn't it 2,000? Why isn't it 10,000? What are your assumptions? If you're a restaurant, how many table turns is that? What's the average ticket on the per meal? How many hours are you open? What's your staffing requirements? And what kind of wages are you going to be paying? Because all that flows into the fact that we know that you put some homework into putting these projections together. Typical closing for us is as little as 3 weeks even for a startup. And 6 weeks or more. It kind of depends on you on how fast you can put everything together, your business plan, your licensing, your if there's any tenant improvements that are needed, it's going to take longer than that even. The biggest thing is just try to think through as much as you can. Do a lot of research on the internet talk to your advisor at SBDC. Okay, loan requirements. As I mentioned before, we're looking for 20% or more ownership by a veteran or active duty. And yes, that includes the Air Guard, the reserves, or a veteran of a widow. I'm sorry, a widow of a veteran or a spouse. Okay, so typically down payment, we're looking for 10 to 20%. Even loans that are 150,000 or less, we only look for 10% on a startup. That's very aggressive. Loans that are larger, up to 250,000, we need the 20% down. We don't have a minimum score on the credit report, but we definitely look at the experiences that are on there to see if it's something that's past or medical related or bankruptcy 8 years ago or whatever. You know, we definitely want to see what we can do to help you get into the business. But there is a preliminary score that we have to do with the SBA. So if your score is really low and there's a lot of late payments that are fairly recent, chances are you're probably not going to score with the SBA. You got to get that credit report cleaned up first. But I run that after I get the initial forms in. I run that right away to make sure that there isn't any issues that are going to keep us from getting this loan done. Let's see. Loans over 150,000 may need outside collateral. Most of the time, not. We're not a collateral lender. Yes, we take a lien, a first lien on the business, but I've been here 4 years. We haven't taken anyone's house as collateral for the loan. Yes, you have to sign a personal guarantee, but you know that is really separate than liens on your business. Let's see. No bankruptcy in the last 3 years. No outstanding suits, liens, judgments, or loss to the government. That loss to the government is really important. If you have maybe the government says, hey, you owe us, $10,000 for employee-backed taxes or something. And that's got to be paid in full. That you can't settle with them, otherwise you're not eligible for the SBA loan. Or even a student loan. I've seen this before where someone defaulted on student loans and they didn't pay it back. And that is also a loss to the government. So you'd have to re-engage with the government, start the payments up again, and then usually after 3 months, you're back in good standing. You're eligible for a loan again. You can have a criminal record, but you can't be on parole. And there are certain types of felonies where we have to send the information to the FBI for fingerprints and confirmation, make sure everything's cleared. But misdemeanors are usually not a problem at all. Interest rate, prime +3. That's wrong. Rates went down 0.25% last week. So now we're at 8.25. And that's very competitive for an unsecured startup loan. A lot of banks wouldn't even give you a startup loan, let alone offer you a rate that's lower than a lot of credit cards. No prepayment penalty as long as you give us a 21-day notice that you want to pay off the loan. 6 to 10 years on the loans with no balloon and no call. The 6-year term would be a microloan program that we have that's typically $5,000 to $50,000. And the normal one, the Community Advantage we talked about, that is a 10-year loan. But again, no prepayment penalty. You must be a for-profit business, and our packaging fee, the only part that we collect is a 1 to 2% of the loan amount, and it maxes out at $2,500. Other closing costs, about $200 for third-party expenses for pulling the credit report, UCC searches, that type of thing. Okay, we're almost done. These are a couple of clients that we have done loans for. Vigilance, special ops guy in San Diego, Navy SEAL, and they do workplace violence and risk assessment training. Really good guy. Laura Renner is was a captain in the Air Force. She started up a business where she basically hires a lot of spouses all around the world to do virtual office assistant stuff for local small businesses. We Waffle is in Sacramento and Folsom, California, and we helped them open up their second location in Folsom, and that loan's already been paid off. So they did really well. No one else would give them a loan to get the second location because they hadn't been opening for 2 years on the first one. But we liked their numbers. We liked the concept that they were using, and now they are franchised. And there's other locations open now. Okay, so that is the end of my official presentation part. I would love to take questions on, just to see what's on your mind right now, as far as, what didn't I cover? There's always great questions.
Awesome, Mike. Yeah, there's a lot of great information in here. Go ahead and continue submitting questions to the Q&A box. I'm going to start it off with a question that I have. So what would be the average size of the loan that you provide through Veteran Launch? Like, what's the number, your sweet spot?
Yeah, our average loan size is about $150,000 because of the 10%, only 10% down. And it is, we actually get a higher guarantee. We get an 85% guarantee on that loan, as opposed to the larger loans that are only 75%. So it's an incentive for us as the lender. It's great for the borrower, and it's not too much money. I mean, the payment is not, too big where it gets uncomfortable for someone. Because I think the $250,000 loan, the payment's just over $3,000 a month. So, it's a lot more.
That's great. So I also wanted to point out when we were talking on Monday, it's like you are the underwriter and you're the business development. So you're the first signature and you also will help them through closing. So
that's right.
I just wanted to highlight how...
Yeah, you're with me through the entire process. And then after the loan closes, we have a portfolio manager that helps out, but they still kind of keep me up to date. But your main contact would be the portfolio manager.
Great. So another question is, how long does the process take? I know you mentioned that was 3 to 6 weeks. If it takes 3 weeks, like, are they already prepared? Do they already have their business plan in hand, or what's?
Yes, because it's very important to put a lot of thought into the business plan. A lot of times people will do that initial call with me. We'll talk about eligibility, talk about the type of program, talk about their experience, and then they go away. And they email me their business plan and their projections so I can give them that first initial review. A lot of times it's perfectly fine, and I will send out my initial forms right away and we'll get started. But yeah, you don't want to rush writing that business plan. And with Robert, one of the guys on our team, he says, don't be afraid to allow your projections to fail. Meaning, if you're going in with your own assumptions and they're valid and they're conservative, and it doesn't pencil out, well, maybe that's not going to work out for you. That's okay. It's best to find that out at the very beginning. Definitely a 3-week approval and closing. They've already got the business plan. It's probably an existing business already. They just need a little working capital. Hey, here's what we do, Mike. Maybe you can get away with the 5 pages on that one. But most of the time, you got to give me some more details on where you've been and where you're going with the new loan funds.
Great. I really appreciate this background, because I know it seems like a mystery when we get into working with clients on, okay, how am I going to get this loan? And love that you mentioned Lifeplan. We use Lifeplan. We love Lifeplan.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Do you have anyone in your office that is kind of an expert at that for helping with clients?
We actually utilize our associate consultants, which are student interns, and they become masters in Lifeplan and understanding the ins and outs. And so they do a great job of assisting our senior level consultants in using Lifeplan and helping the client navigate some of these parts through the plan.
That's great. In fact, you can maintain Lifeplan. I believe it's only like $15 a month. And that's really critical for the first couple of years. Yeah, it's another expense, but if you can put in good information, it gives you such valuable feedback on where you're going. And, you can click on that scoreboard or dashboard at the front, and you can see things that are important to your business right there on there. Okay, where am I? Too many times we see a business owner where all they're focused on is whether or not they've got money in their bank account. And that is not the way to go, because you'll see the money starting to go down and they don't know what to do because they don't know their numbers. So Lifeplan really does help to analyze all that information.
That's awesome. And one of the questions was, where can I find great sample business plans? And Lifeplan does have great samples available as well.
I have some also, and the SBA has several options. There's a lot on the internet, and they're all going to have kind of the basic stuff. The good thing about me is that you can take the business plan that you think fits your style and what you're trying to put together, and give it your best shot and send it to me. I'm not going to submit it to our loan closer unless it's good enough. If nothing else, it helps you to take what's in your head already and get it down on paper. We'll help you get the business plan finished, or send you back to the SBDC and let them, put the bells and whistles on it. So it's beautiful when it comes back to me.
Awesome. It's one of the things. It's confidential. Your business plan is confidential and shared only with those who need it.
That's right.
So we have several questions. I'm going to go with, first is, do I need to factor the loan payment into my financial projections?
Yes, it's a good idea to put that at the bottom, though. What are your sales? What are your expected expenses? And you got your EBITDA and earnings before interest, depreciation, amortization. Because you got to know what you've got to work with. And then at the bottom, I would suggest putting your loan payment, because that's true cash flow. That's interest and principal being paid out every month. So you can say, oh, gee, I thought I was going to make $5,000, but on this $250,000 loan, that's another $3,000 out the door. I guess I'm only netting $2,000 a month. So it's important to really see what the true cash flow is by having that loan payment at the bottom.
Absolutely. We have a lot of questions on the plan, and I'm really happy that there's questions regarding the plan, because it is an important process, a part of the process. So somebody wanted to know, where do you get this data to formulate the plan, like information on local businesses that are similar to yours, and
Yep.
that market research? How do they get that?
Well, there is a ton of information available through the SBDC, demographics, the census, is it census.gov?
Yeah.
And then there's another one that's like a subset of that. Census.gov, I mean, the census is only, every 10 years. But subset of that's some of it's taken every month, some of it's every year, some of it's every 2 or 3 years. It's really good. Additional information, and it's all free. But you go to census.gov first, and you can start with that, because, for instance, if you're a roofer, right? You're a roofer in Bakersfield. Well, how many other roofing companies are out there? You can find that. What's the average income for the homes? You can go the whole metropolitan area, or you can zoom in and do just a really small. You can actually trace a territory that you're interested in, and it gives you the data just for that. It's really good stuff. It's a presentation I was at the SBDC, by the way, where it was a guy from census.gov. That's his job, is just to go out and educate the public about all this free information that's available. So that's one source.
That's great.
The internet is another one. Let's say you want to do a shaved ice business. You go on Yelp and you type in shaved ice Bakersfield, California, and see what pops up. That's your competitors. And another thing you can do is you can read the comments, things that people liked, things that people didn't like about each of those businesses, to help you formulate how you want to put your business together.
And that's one of the pieces of advice that I like to give clients when we're working on their customer development. It's like, go to Google, go to Yelp, go to Facebook. Yep. What are people saying? And
that's right.
How can you fit in that niche, or is it the right place for you? So and I know at our center we utilize SBDC.net, which is the free market research done through an SBDC out of Texas, and they pull all of this information in these nice packets for your specific industry. It can be a little vague, so the census is a great place to look. We work with our associate consultants on doing market research for our area as well, and try to utilize a whole bunch of tools to help our small businesses find these resources, because it can seem like too much.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You've got some questions on here about disabled veterans.
Absolutely. So you want to touch on that?
Yes, I would say that at least a third of my borrowers are disabled veterans, male or female. It doesn't matter. I look at that as a positive, because that is usually there is money coming from the VA, and it's tax-free. So that's additional income that you can put on the personal financial statement as other ways to help get their loan paid for if the business has a slowdown or whatever. We definitely look to see if there's any other secondary or tertiary income to help pay back this loan. So if the spouse works, or you've already got a full-time job and you just want to start something on the side, we will be happy to do that, provided you can show in the business plan that you've got the bandwidth, the ability to work both businesses and grow this one that you're getting the loan for. We don't want someone to say, oh, I tried it for 6 months. Yeah, that didn't work. I'm just going to default on the loan. So that's not really what we're looking for. We're looking for something where maybe you can eventually quit your full-time job because this one has taken off and you're ready to go, because this is what you really want to do. Yes, disabled veterans, we don't have any discounts on the fees. We have, if our business is 50% or more owned by a veteran, then we cut our packaging fee in half. So, remember, it's only a maximum of $2,500 for that. SBA used to have a break, but now they don't. It's more whether or not you're in a hub zone or opportunity zone or enterprise zone. That's where you can get some additional discounts on SBA fee, which, by the way, we didn't talk about that. It's usually 2 to 3% of the guaranteed portion.
Okay.
And that's a good, and remember, the guarantee is either 75 or 85%. I can tell you, if you give me a loan, I could, work the numbers real quick, but it's not that bad, and it can be financed.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Someone wanted to know the typical loan term. So And
Yes.
you mentioned your micro loan and your standard.
Yes. Okay. Everybody got their pencil ready?
Sure.
Yeah, $5,000 to $50,000. The interest rate right now, 7.75%. Fixed for 6 years. That's better than any credit card you're ever going to get for a small business loan. That's a really good deal.
Wow.
The Community Advantage loan is the one that's guaranteed by the SBA, and that one is $25,000 to $250,000, and that one the interest rate is prime plus 3, so that puts you at 8.25 right now. It is variable rate, but as you saw last week, the Fed lowered rates last week, so I don't think we're in a high interest rate environment right now that might have you concerned about that. Let's see. Down payment we covered. 150,000 in loan or less is only 10% down. We are starting to see more projects where there's construction involved. We usually are going to be looking on your personal financial statement. We're going to want to make sure that you've got some additional sources of funds, either in savings or retirement or other income, rental income or something, so that if you run into trouble as you're doing the project and it ends up being a lot more expensive just to put it all together, you've got some funds to draw on. Because if my loan is maxed out at $250,000, then you got to know where you're going to go to get the extra funds.
Absolutely. All right, so we're just about out of time. I wanted to ask you one more question, though. I think it's important to highlight. You mentioned early on, but what kind of transactions do you do at Veteran Launch? What are your normal scope of business that you work with?
It's all over. We don't have any industry that is taboo. We tended to have a lot of restaurants and bars, and we feel like we have too many of them now. But if that's what you want, if that's what you're interested in, we'll definitely still consider that. But frankly, when the recession comes, and it will come, restaurants get hit and bars get hit pretty hard. So, we don't want our portfolio to get too out of whack by having too many of one industry, especially a economic sensitive type industry like restaurants and bars. But we still do a lot of them. I mentioned, I think I've got 3 pool service companies. I've got a lot that are doing the government contracting. I just got one approved the other day. They're surveying land, and they're telling PG&E and SMUD and California Water exactly where the pipes are and how deep they are, so that there's less breaking when they're digging and all that stuff. So that's a great contract. Typically, you need to have a contract in your hand before you get the loan from us. You wouldn't want to be able to say, "Hey, Mike, I want to get into government contracting. Give me the money and I'll go get it set up." Yeah, you really should be doing that same work in the civilian population first, and then apply to do the government contracting. Because what if you don't get any contracts? Then it's got to be viable on the civilian side as well.
Absolutely. So if somebody wanted to start flipping houses as a job, would that be something you would work with?
Absolutely not. That's considered speculative. You're hoping that you can sell that house for more than what you paid for, but that's really not the business we're in, because we're a term loan. We're not a line of credit. So what you need for that type of business is a line of credit where you plop down the money, buy the property, go buy your improvements, and then when you sell it, you can pay down on the line of credit and go buy the next one. We're not set up like that. We're just term loans.
Great. So we have another question, but I'm going to take that one offline because it's a little more personal to that person.
Okay.
If you have any more questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself or Mike. We'd be happy to work with you. My email address is ehamlin, HAMLIN, @csub.edu. I'll be emailing you some slides out. If you would like them, please respond to our survey that will be emailed to you as well. If you would like to learn more about related programs or this program, please